ladies and gentlemen, it is my delight to introduce you to our new partnership here at the MBDA Federal Procurement Center with Govology and the CEO and co-founder, Carol Bernard. Govology is partnering with What Works Online and the MBDA Federal Procurement Center to elevate procurement readiness of minority businesses across the country and small disadvantaged businesses in this government contracting community. We will focus and commit to a comprehensive hand-holding, capacity building, along with on-demand information available to our small business community so that we can best ensure and assist the government in helping them reach their goals of 11%, now move to 12%, rapidly moving to 15% by 2025 of all federal acquisitions going to small disadvantaged businesses, the MBEs, to include our HBCUs. Without further ado, it is my privilege for you to ask you to get your pen and your pad, your iPad, your laptop, take your notes. Yes, you will have in your Hoover the PowerPoint slides, but these points of information are your baseline for where you will be next year at this time, because you sat in the right seat at the right time. Ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to introduce you to Carol Bernard.
All right, thank you so much, Keith, and thank you for inviting me to this great virtual conference you've got set up today. Can you see my screen okay?
Can see it perfectly,
on the slides.
Carol.
All right, awesome.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to jump right in, and I might talk a little bit fast because I'm going to squeeze a 90-minute presentation down to about 50 minutes. I believe we do have 50 minutes, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. But my name is Carol Bernard. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Govology. We're an online training platform where we put on-demand education out there for small and diverse businesses who want to navigate, grow, and diversify their portfolio of business. And Keith mentioned something, and he mentioned something to the effect of the SDB opportunity, small disadvantaged business. So if you don't know what that is, if you are a minority-owned small business, you're likely also qualified as a small disadvantaged business. There's only an economic component to that. So if you want to look it up online, you can Google what is a small disadvantaged business. One of the things that Keith also mentioned about this new goal that President Biden put out there is so significant, you don't even realize it, because historically the goal has always been set to 5% for SDB utilization in government prime contracts, and I'm speaking federal government. With that moving to 15%, it represents billions of dollars of new spend for small disadvantaged businesses. And in fact, as Keith mentioned, a lot of those agencies are having a hard time even spending all the money with SDBs. And so this is why this presentation is really important. And if you're excited about this, I want to talk to you about how to really prepare for and win government contracts. And the reason why I put the word really in quotation marks is because there is a lot of information out there online. So if you were excited about maybe getting involved with government contracting, or maybe you've already stepped in to this market, but you feel a bit lost, I don't blame you. If you Google, you can find all kinds of different resources, guides, tools, books, etc. And there's something that you need to know about those things that you're going to see out there. We're going to talk about the challenges a lot of businesses have with what's available online and how you can get yourself procurement ready. So here's a little bit about my background. I'm not going to read it all, but basically I got my start as a supply officer in the Navy and the acquisition community there. I worked as a contracting officer at the VA. I worked at the SBA, and that's when back about 10 years ago, I worked with a lot of small disadvantaged businesses and minority-owned businesses that were going through the 8A business development program. This is something, if you qualify for, definitely write that note down. 8A business development program It's a phenomenal program for small disadvantaged businesses that not only allows you to get certain set aside contracts where only 8As can compete, but also sole source contracts directly from the government. You don't even have to compete for. You just have to have a good business, good products and service, and know how to go out and connect and get that contract. So, and we've got training on that, and that's what we do. We're a training company. Like many of you, if you're a business and you're in business, I'm also a small business owner myself. So we pursue government market opportunities. So in addition to a lot of the background I had from my procurement side, for like the last 10 years, I've been down in the trenches, and a lot of what I learned from the trenches really helps me to also teach the way that we teach today. So I hope I'm going to bring you some value in what you're going to see here today and help to open up your mind for some good opportunities ahead. So my why for this presentation is that the government marketplace offers many great opportunities, just as I spoke about, especially right now, historical opportunities for small disadvantaged businesses. However, many businesses face several issues in their quest to become what's called procurement ready. So number one, a lot of people don't even know what the term procurement ready means. A lot of times that general guidance on procurement readiness often falls short of helping contractors prepare for specific opportunities that's relevant to their business. And without sound and specific guidance on procurement readiness, businesses can also waste a lot of time and money and take much longer, if ever, to win a government contract. Then they leave the market frustrated with nothing to show for it. And that's unfortunate, but here I wanted to show you a better pathway that you're going to be able to chart your course and then navigate down your own course. So on the agenda, I want to define what the government marketplace is, just so when I speak about a government market opportunity, you'll know what I'm talking about. I want to define procurement readiness so you guys understand when an agency says, you know, get procurement ready, what does really that mean? I will also help you understand what we believe is a better approach to procurement readiness, and I want to discuss the people, education, and resources that you can leverage to achieve the right level of procurement readiness, specific to the opportunities that you want to pursue. And then I'm going to point you to some of those great people and resources towards the end of the presentation, so you can step right out of this and start your journey. So what is the government marketplace? Basically, when I talk about the government marketplace, it's this large market where federal, state, and local agencies, including school districts, prisons, and public institutions, procure goods and services from both the private and public sectors, either to fulfill a mission through contracts or provide funding to serve the public through grants. Now, an important thing for you to really understand as you step into the government marketplace is really, where do you fit in this marketplace? Because if you look at these words that I have up here, prime contracts, grant recipients, size of opportunity, depending upon where you fit in this paradigm, you're going to probably have a little bit of a different approach. And so here's where we start to already think about a tailored approach to the government marketplace. Now, if you're reading guides and contents that talk to you about being a prime contractor on federal contracts under large acquisitions, there's a certain pathway for that. If you want to be a prime contractor to the federal government on micro purchases, there's a certain pathway for that. But you might find that you're best suited as a subcontractor, or maybe what you do, like what I do on the education side, really goes through a lot of grants. So a lot of our partnerships, this is where we find our sweet spot as a first tier supporting cast to some of the grant recipients that get the educational funding to help to educate small businesses. So this is the first thing that I want you to really understand, is that understanding where you fit is really going to serve you well as you chart your course to your own procurement readiness. Here is a definition of procurement readiness by the Department of Veterans Affairs. It says that procurement readiness is demonstrated ability to win and successfully perform on contracts. It represents an understanding of how to navigate the various opportunities set aside for small businesses and respond to procurement opportunities. A procurement ready Small business could be a viable government contractor by having the registrations, capabilities, performance history, and competitive advantage to meet the needs of the customers. So essentially what that is saying is that you need to understand how to get ready to be a government contractor, how to get set up, how to find the opportunities relevant for those types of opportunities you want to go after, win the opportunity, and then successfully be able to perform the opportunity. And you don't want to ever get in an opportunity that you can't perform, because in this case, your first contract may be your last. Here's a little bit of a checklist that the VA has produced. Now, what you might notice here is that everything on this checklist is not necessarily relevant to you having to get procurement ready for all opportunities. What I wanted to convey to you today is that everything that you see online or in books, you got to take it with a framework and a grain of salt as to what is relevant to you, because you could be doing things that are not relevant that it says to do in the guide and spend a lot of time and money doing that thing. So really understand that these guides provide a broad approach to many businesses, but when it comes down to your business, you got to really find out what's the right things for you to be doing. And if you don't know the answer to that, the resources that I'm going to share with you at the end of this presentation is going to help to guide you. So here's the challenge with some of the, what I call the general guidance, is that not everything that is mentioned in those books is going to be relevant to win a contract or even required. And in other instances, the general guidance doesn't go far enough. So it doesn't tell you everything. And the reason why that is it can't, because there's a certain level when you basically do your registrations and you get ready to do business with the agency, that you got to look at what the requirements of specific opportunities are that you want to win. And sometimes those are some additional things that you've got to do, which simply there's no guide that could be writing all of those opportunities or all of those requirements in one guide. It would be a never-ending book. Also, some of the challenges we find here is that some of the information is outdated with broken reference links that will take you to a dead end. It can be overwhelming, confusing, frustrating, and disappointing to navigate all of the resources and information put out by different sources with different guidance. So again, if you're these two bullet points up here, if you're basically doing the wrong things or you're wasting your time here, it can cost you a lot of time and money to spend that you don't have. And ideally, you want to get to the direct line, right? You want to get to those opportunities as quick as possible. I think that there's a statistic that says that the average contractor spends about $130,000 before they get their first government contract. But I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to be that hard or nearly that expensive if you get the right guidance and you shoot down the pathway and you're not just hanging out there guessing around at it. So here is the simpler approach that we've come up with to help businesses understand their pathway to procurement readiness. And essentially there's 3 levels. Level 1 is business readiness. You got to be strong at your core in business. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you get or how fancy of a proposal you write to the government. If your business is weak in its foundation, it's going to be very hard for you to get government contracts. Level 2 is agency readiness. And if you are a subcontractor, what that means is prime readiness. So basically that's understanding your customer and going through all of the red tape maybe that it takes to get set up to do business with them. Sometimes if you're a subcontractor, those primes also have portals that they want you to register in. So it's really getting set up and really starting to learn about your customer, understand them, understand their procurement processes, meeting the people, etc. Level 3 is the level that most guides do not talk about. And I think it's really the missing link for a lot of businesses. I've coached hundreds of businesses, if not thousands, over the last decade. And I've seen this happen time and time again, where they're just looking for the opportunity to hit some bid lead system or notification system to pop up in their email box, and then they're going to write a proposal to it. This strategy is not that great. Number one, because you don't have a lot of time. Number two, you don't have relationships probably built with the people you need to have relationships with. But then also, if there's something else that was required by opportunity for you to be able to even be eligible to bid or to be considered for award, and that thing is not in place, you might just like have to pass on that opportunity. And it could be a big gut punch, because if you're doing business with some of the government agencies, sometimes the perfect opportunity might only come around every 5 years by the way that they do some of their consolidated contracts in cyclical phases and make awards for 5 years or more, maybe sometimes at a time. So really, if you want to play at that level, at that bigger game, you really want to get visibility on the opportunities that you want to pursue before they even come out for solicitation. So here's some things basically in the business readiness front. You've got an established business, you got established products and services with established sales. The government wants to do business with established businesses most of the time. Not to say it's impossible if you just set up and the government might be your first customer, that it can happen. But for the most part, they want to do business with established businesses. And so these are some of the things just on your business readiness front. And this list is not all inclusive, but you will know this for yourself as well. What do I need to do to evolve or have my business mature to a level where I produce a view of less risk to the government? And one thing that I didn't mention on that little scale where I showed the type of opportunities, large, medium, small, and micro, is that the larger you go up into that, the more the government's going to want to see past performance and past history, maybe that you don't have, because they don't want to take the risk on big money contracts with brand new contractors. But the good news to that is that there's also smaller opportunities that you can get involved with, and when you're able to learn how to prospect for those smaller opportunities that there's not a lot of risk involved, that's where you might be able to connect in. Sometimes I call it the foot in the door offer with a government agency, because if you can establish a smaller contract, perform well on it, build a relationship, that could lead to bigger and better things. So level 2 is agency ready or prime ready. That is, if you're a subcontractor. So a couple of key notes here. Understand the big picture of the government marketplace. Do your homework when you're looking to do business with your customer. A lot of them will have you create profiles or vendor profiles. Now, I have this weird question is, do you even need to create a vendor profile for your situation, right? Because most of the guides will say, step 1, sign up for our portal. And let's just say you wanted to do business with all of the state and local agencies across the United States. Well, that's like 90,000 agencies. So is part of your process going to be set up 90,000 profiles? No. Basically, your approach should be relevant to what you're doing. So if there's an opportunity imminent that you're going to be bidding with that agency and it requires you to be registered, yes, you're going to get registered. Maybe you have a conversation and that conversation leads to somebody at that agency saying, hey, why don't you just send me something? They look at it and they can actually give you the contract, sometimes without even competition. And so again, they will tell you when you need to get registered, but also if you're doing micro purchase acquisitions or sales, many times you don't have to register for those small transactions. So again, how far do you have to go before you start wasting your time? The big registration point for the federal government is SAM. And so I typically recommend everybody register at SAM because it enables you to do business with all of the federal agencies. SAM.gov is the official registration point for the federal government. But again, when you're starting to look at all of these 90,000 agencies out there, you really have to question like your process of how you're going to do this in an effective and efficient manner. When you do set up your profiles, make sure that they're complete and optimized. Make sure that they have your certifications listed in them so that if the government is trying to get goaling and participation for MBE or SDB goals, they see that you're in the system. And maybe that could actually be a way for them to reach out to you directly to invite you into certain opportunities. Understand and engage in the marketing that you need to do. Establish the effective sales process that's right for your business. So if you already have an established business with an established sales process, that same process may work for the government. So why don't you start there as a starting point? But if you find that it's not the same process, or maybe you may have to make some tweaks to that process, then be adaptable. Here's a key, number 7, understand and leverage the power of teaming, joint ventures, and the SBA's mentor protege program. Now, this is on the federal side. So if you are a small disadvantaged business and you get into any of the other certifications, what you should understand is that a lot of federal opportunities are set aside. So if you're a 8A firm, or you're a woman-owned business, or you're a veteran-owned or service-disabled veteran-owned business, the federal government sets these opportunities aside. Where the challenge becomes is that when the opportunities are big, and just like I mentioned to you earlier, the bigger the opportunity, the less likely that government agency is going to risk it on a small contractor. However, there's something very unique about the federal market, and it's called teaming. And this is where, because of the environment being set aside, with hundreds of billions of dollars going to set aside contracts for small businesses, the larger firms want to play in that. And the only way that they can play in that is to team up with a small business. So this makes for a great marriage, because the small business doesn't really necessarily have all of that past history and past performance to put forth when the agency is looking for that in their evaluation criteria for award. But yet, here comes this larger partner that can team up with you or do a joint venture with you. We're not going to talk about those because we have separate training if you want to learn about that. But there's some amazing things that can happen to accelerate your pace of being able to go after opportunities, and not only from a past performance perspective, but writing proposals. A lot of times the teaming partners will help you write a proposal. If you don't know how to write a proposal for a big contract opportunity, and you've got an experienced teaming partner that can do that, they can bring that. They can bring the ability for financial capacity maybe that you don't have. And so there's a lot of things that a teaming partner or a joint venture partner or a mentor can offer you in this marketplace. And when we look at how we might help agencies be able to meet some of their SDB goals, this is one of the pathways that we see this. We get them into an educational pathway to accelerate their education. And then on the back end of that, tie them in with big partners who can support them if they want to go after the big opportunities. Now, some people are happy with just, going after $5,000 to $10,000 opportunities, and that's also very good for a small business. You may not need a partner. So that's something that I definitely want to encourage you to check out and learn about even further, especially if you're wanting to go after the big opportunities with federal agencies. Also, obtain your small business certifications. I just mentioned some of them with the federal government. 8A, that's the official certification for small disadvantaged businesses. So if you already registered at SAM and you tick the box and said, I'm a small disadvantaged business, you might want to go and get that 8A certification. It's a 9-year business development program that provides you a lot of benefit. You'll have an assigned person at the SBA to help you market your business and further give you some guidance. But again, you're going to have access to set aside and sole source opportunities from the government through that program. State certifications are also important. You might have an MBE certification or a DBE certification. Those are separate. So those certifications don't carry over on the federal side, and the federal side doesn't carry over on the state side or local side. So make sure you get all those certifications, because they can help open doors of opportunity for you, plus provide you some competitive advantage, plus attract potential teaming partners, because you've got access to opportunities that the partners cannot. It's really great. Level 3 is the opportunity readiness. And so this is where you move from an overall understanding about the agency and you start to zero in on what the opportunities will look like in the future. I call this the tactical market research, where you're going to be using these techniques to learn about the agency, about the specific people, active contracts that are in play right now that's going to come up for competition in the future. A lot of federal agencies put out a forecast of opportunities so you can get that visibility downstream. We even have a training on our Govology platform about how to build your own forecast of opportunities. And again, this is important to get in front of these opportunities before they come up and hit the street, because you're going to want to have some things at the ready and not be scrambling or maybe not be able to do it at all. You can also study some of these historical competitions. Who are the incumbents? Who are the players in terms of the agencies and the decision makers? You can go and get the old solicitation in many cases and conduct your own strengths and weaknesses analysis on that opportunity. If that opportunity were on the street today, where would you be? Would you be able to go after that on your own, or would there be some things in there that's going to be a showstopper for you? And those showstoppers are the kind of things that you want to start making accommodations for or overcoming now. So that way, when the actual solicitation comes open on the street, those are not showstoppers for you at that time. And so the other thing is that you want to use all of these tactics and techniques to be able to adapt, evolve, and then prepare well in advance. Here's some factors of showstoppers, and you're probably like, okay, what are you talking about? So let me break it down for you, give you some showstoppers that I've seen catch people by surprise. And that's what we're trying to avoid in opportunity readiness, is to see these things, prepare for them, and not be surprised by them. So cybersecurity requirements. This is becoming a big thing with the government. So if you have a contract that ultimately has certain clauses from the FAR or the DFARs, these are the Federal Acquisition Regulations and the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulations, that requires you to have a certain cybersecurity preparedness posture. Right now, they're calling it CMMC, and there's 3 levels to it. You need to be prepared for that ahead of time. For construction firms, bonding is a big one that may prevent you from getting the opportunities. By the way, if you're in construction, teaming partners oftentimes would be willing to put up bonding for you to go after and capture certain contracts together. A compliant accounting system. In certain cost-based contracts, you have to have a compliant accounting system. Other types of certifications that's not small business based, ISO or certain things that the government might be looking for, maybe a security clearance, product compliance requirements. So are your products compliant with things like the Trade Agreements Act and the Buy American Act? Do you even know what those things are? And I'm missing an A on that. So audited financial statements. So this is not required for every opportunity, but some opportunities. So you need to understand what becomes maybe the showstopper for you. I got to say, I missed a really great opportunity that was right up our alley. A water for 5 years. Just last year, I saw this opportunity come out for education, said small businesses could apply. And I got down in there and it said, you must submit audited financial statements with your proposal. And that was like a punch in the gut, because even if I wanted to pay the very costly expense for those audited financial statements, I wouldn't have been able to get it done in time and include it by the time the proposal was due. So this is really what I mean by that level 3 in this importance of this opportunity readiness phase. So here's the takeaways. Depending on the opportunity you're pursuing, the process and procurement readiness requirements may be very minimal or maybe very intensive. As I said, larger the requirement, the more high risk, the more that you're going to have trouble getting that as a small business or maybe as a new business coming in. Conversely, lower contracts, lower risk, less dollar amount, lower risk, right? But here's the good news, and especially if you're like a micro enterprise in a small business, like I said earlier, you can start small and work your way up. And if you are looking for those large opportunities that require you to meet and maintain that higher level of procurement readiness, there's education, people, and partnerships that can help you get there. I'm going to share more on some of those education, people, and partnerships. And then there's also part of that is the teaming partners that we talked about as well. Just be patient, persistent, never stop learning and applying. You need to evolve at all times so that you can level up your maturity. And when you level up your maturity, you level up your procurement readiness posture. So here's some options that you could take. So you could wing it. So this is pretty much what, before we had internet and we had all this like cool guidance, at some point there was no guidance. Now there seems to be kind of too much out there, which is confusing. But this is how people did it, 30 years ago, before we had all of the information that we have now. It's just basically they stepped in and they failed their way forward. It was very costly to them. It took them a lot of time. And that's what I don't want people to do today, because we have better options. Trying to make sense of that overwhelming amount of information published online. Some is good, some's bad, some's ugly, and then some's downright deceptive. And that's a real tragedy. You have to watch out what you're doing out there, because there are companies that are set up and designed only to take your money. So not to really help you advance in government contracts. They're going to make you think that you will be, but once they take your money, then it's gone. Educate yourself. This is so key. Start with the education. This is why I'm so passionate about what we do, is because I believe that with the education, you move from that perspective from I don't know what I don't know to, oh, now I know what I don't know. And then you can go from there to continue to fill in the gaps to help you get that information. Like teaming, that's just one area. When you understand how to team and how to court a teaming partner and how to speak intelligently to that teaming structure, that speaks volumes when you're trying to get these partnerships. Never stop learning. That's all I got to say about that. Once you get the education, always continue, and then continue to surround yourself with good qualified people that can help you win. So I have a short amount of time, I think maybe a few minutes left, but I'm going to speed through a little bit. Here's where you're going to want to leverage your mastermind alliance. You can see you got teaming partners, you got representatives at the agencies, you got what I call the G Fund Mastermind. These are all the government funded resources that are available. Most of them all cost nothing to you to go out and get. Subject matter experts, government employees. These are all people you're going to want to leverage. We teach more about this in depth in some of our training programs. I want to really thank a lot of our partners. We've got nearly 100 partnerships set up, and this is what Govology is all about, collaboration. First, I'd like to thank again Keith Moore at the Federal Procurement Center, and also our partners. We have several partners around the nation on the local MBDA centers. And then we also have a lot of different types of partners, from VBOX to PTAX around the country. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what those resources are before we get off this call today. By the way, I have this presentation loaded in my exhibitor booth if you want to go and download it, and all the links are hyperlink active, so you can click on the links. You can learn a little bit more about what we do and what we have available at Govology through the slides. But I want to leave you with these call to actions. So number one, I want to invite you to join us for what we are calling our 2023 Federal Procurement Readiness Program, MBE Track, in collaboration with the MBDA Federal Procurement Center, the MBDA network nationwide, as well as a lot of our partners out there. These are going to be some really great structured, objective-based cohorts designed to get you through that level of procurement readiness, so you start to understand. You get all set up with your registration, understand how to prospect for the opportunity specific for your business. Again, that's where we start at a general approach, and we quickly start to move into a tailored approach. So there's also weekly group meetings and one-on-one sessions available with that. a wonderful program available at no cost to you through our partners. So I encourage you to go to Govology cohorts. You're going to see a few cohorts there, but look for the Federal Procurement Readiness Program. And we're going to give you more information about that program if you get signed up there. I also want to mention, make sure you get signed up and get to know your MBDA Federal Procurement Center and also your local MBDA centers. In addition to having some additional resources on federal contracting, they can also help you shore up some of that foundation. Remember I said level 1, you got to have that solid foundation in business, okay? So make sure that you could connect with all of these resource partners and learn to what they can offer for your business. Sign up for PTAC Assistance, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, funded in part by a cooperative agreement grant through the Department of Defense. And there's 98, somewhat about 96 centers around the country, and they specialize also in working with you one-on-one to help you get procurement ready. Many of those centers are also partners of Govology. We have like 80 partners through the PTAC network. So any of our training that you get with one of our partners, you can get no cost access to it. So if you happen to be an agency or a nonprofit that's looking to serve businesses and you're not a partner, please reach out. I'd love to tell you about what we're doing and how we would love to collaborate with you. The last resource that I'd like to mention is the SBA resources and their partners, the VBOX, the Women's Business Centers, the SCORE, and the various partners out there. So there's a link for SBA local assistance. And with that, I think I'm right at my 50-minute mark. I'll just do one last thing. There's a few links to connect with me, but I'd like to invite you to Govology Nation. That's our private LinkedIn group of our community. And you can go there at govology.com/nation. That'll zip you over onto LinkedIn. And all you have to do is request access. I'll get you in there. But we have a really great community there, free to you. Over 1,200 members from small businesses to subject matter experts to many of our partners as well. So I encourage you to go over there and join us. And there's 1 minute. Do we have like a questions box or something there, Keith? Do we have any questions?
No questions at this point, but like you were saying, have them go to your exhibitor area and contact you directly. That would be nice.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Keith, and thanks everyone who attended the presentation.
Carol, we want to thank you for not only this presentation, but your sponsorship to this summit, your commitment to the small business disadvantaged community. It is a serious time in history and opportunity that is unprecedented. And we know in this swift moving environment, post-pandemic, that small will always stay small unless they have some competitive advantages. So the partnership that we are now entering into, the strategies that we're planning and moving towards execution are going to create a collaborative team approach by entities such as PTAC, SBA, MBDA, and organizations who historically have worked perhaps in silos, to say as much. But we are changing the game, and we're excited about that. This is what innovation does, so we're committed to it. And so we look forward to not only the partnership, but many, many small businesses literally scaling because they become shovel ready. And ladies and gentlemen and small business owners, it's not a rose garden once you get your first contract. It's not, it doesn't get any easier. It gets better as you get the technical support, the mentorship, the guidance, and the wins that pay off all of the work, time, and effort that you put into growing your business, particularly in the federal space. So Carol, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me,
presentation,
Keith.
and it's a good reflection of the A's to Z's that of what works in succeeding in government contracting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.